I want to start by first saying that I'm not making these videos to be aesthetic. I'm making these videos, one, to just process my journey. I've been through quite a lot in my life, and I tend to forget how much truly I have been through. And I deem it as normal because, I mean, it's all I've known. But with that disclaimer, I wanted to talk about a couple of questions that I usually get about the abuse that I've gone through, things that have happened to me, and how did I get through it. And the biggest question I've gotten, especially when being questioned by authorities of any sort, or just, you know, people in general just being curious, is why did I not do something more to stop the acts that were happening to me? And in those moments, if you would have asked me, or if you would ask me probably even a year ago, I would have said, I don't know, I just couldn't, or I tried. And now I realize that there are 4 responses our nervous system usually resorts to during a time of trauma or a time of uncertainty or being scared. And those 4 things are fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which many of us have heard of the fight or freeze response. The freeze being like the deer in headlights, and the fight being like you just go at whoever or whatever is coming your way. I used to be a fight all the time, but when it came to men specifically, I would freeze or I would fawn. And to me, the biggest reason that I understand why I fawned mostly is because I had no self-worth or self-value to understand that I did not need to please somebody over and over and over again in order to get what I needed. Me saying no is more than enough. And I would freeze whenever I would be cornered, or when I would be, you know, just persuaded so many times over and over again that I just could no longer say no anymore because it wasn't being heard. Like I said before, my ex used to keep me awake arguing back and forth until I would say yes to us having sex, and usually I would say no, but sometimes I would just lay there because it was easier than us arguing. It was easier than being berated. It was easier than being told you're not loved, you don't know how to love anybody, I'm a horrible girlfriend, just anything that he can call me. So to me, it was easier to just submit and exist than it was to fight, because I was usually overpowered, 1. 2, I didn't really have a father figure when I was younger. Looking back, I remember that my stepfather used to treat me very differently than he would treat the other kids. And once I found out it was because I was not his kid, it made sense. I mean, if he chose to treat me as a child, his abuse tactics in his mind would be wrong. But because he didn't treat me as a child, and because he didn't physically touch me, he just hovered over me and pleased himself to me while washing in the shower or watching me sleep, in his head he was doing nothing wrong, right? But when I got with my ex, who was physically abusive to me and was just cheating on me constantly, and you know, exposed me to so many STDs, that I would fight back, and he would often overpower me, so I stopped. And then when I got with my ex after that, he knew of the situation, so he would just, you know, coerce me by saying, you'll do it if you love me, you'll do it if you love me. That my body only understood freezing or fawning. And when I'm asked the question of like, why didn't you do more, I physically couldn't. My body had shut down. I was incapable of making those types of decisions for myself during those times, because I was just so overwhelmed and stressed. And then I get the question of like, how did you push through this? Like, you never looked or acted as though something was wrong. And to be quite honest, it's because I didn't have a choice. I didn't have the family to take care of me. I didn't really have many friends because my ex would usually make me cut ties with any of my friends. And even if I did want to have friends, I was nervous about being questioned as who they were, where did I meet them, to take photos of them, things of that nature, that to me being isolated was easier. It, to me, was easier to stay with a person who hurt me time and time again than to leave, because I would be left with nothing and no one. And to me, that was harder. I realized that after a while it was because I had my own issues, you know, feeling scared and shamed and guilty. That even to this day, like, asking for help is very difficult for me. I won't even ask somebody for a ride because I would rather suffer and sacrifice than be a burden to another person, because most times when I was asking for help, it was leverage to another person, or they would ignore my ask for help, which hurt me more than just giving me a no. That I now feel as though like suffering to me is easy, and I didn't have a choice, so I just continued to like push through and push through and push through. I realize now that I did have a choice. It would have just been a very scary choice for me to have made without the support that I currently have. But even like I said now, like, me asking for help is very difficult. Like, I have to be very close to somebody to even share the vulnerable parts of me. But yeah, I don't know, to be very honest. I don't know, and I don't understand how I was able to get through it. And the only thing I can think of is I was always told this verse from the Bible that mostly everybody knows, and that's God gives his strongest soldiers his toughest battles, or some iteration of that. And I always used to say, well, I didn't sign up to be a soldier, and I didn't sign up to go through these battles. But I realized that it's not because I signed up for it, it's because I can go through these things. Like, I was built to go through these things, and not necessarily I was built to, you know, be assaulted and, you know, beaten and things like that, but it was done to me because I can handle it, and it was done to me because I can handle it, and I knew that I can come out on the other end, and then I can now be here and share my story and share, you know, the things that I've gone through, because I feel like so many people go through these things and they don't talk about it, and they don't, you know, share their experiences, or, you know, just talk about how they felt. And it's a very lonely place to be, and I've been in those spaces where I just felt like ending it would be easier, and it's not. It's a scary feeling to feel so hopeless. So today I just want to talk about like how I felt during those times, and how I want you to understand that it's not as logically easy for us to comprehend during those moments. We're going to be able to react or act a certain way. It's very difficult, men and women, but it's just, you know, what my body decided to do at those times, and in order to get through it, I had to survive, and that was the only way I could survive.